All right, welcome everybody. Let's jump right in. We haven't done a good old-fashioned press briefing wacky questions segment in a little bit. I checked in on the press briefing that took place on Wednesday this week, and some really pretty wacky stuff is going on. First of all, Fox News' Peter Doocy is still trying to ask these gotchas of Jen Psaki. She's actually increasingly well prepared to handle them. And here is one where, after some comments Joe Biden made, Peter Doocy is asking whether if a parent doesn't like their kid's curriculum, they should be considered a domestic terrorist. Extremely misleading. I'll explain in a moment.
Does the administration agree that parents upset about their kids' curriculums could be considered domestic terrorists?
Well, let me unravel this a little bit, because the National School Board Association is not a part of the U.S. government. I'd point you to them. What the Department of Justice said in a letter from the Attorney General is that, quote, threats against public servants are not only illegal, they run counter to our nation's core values. That is true. These were threats against public servants, threats against members of the school board. Regardless of the reasoning, threats and violence against public servants is illegal.
Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is Peter Doocy talking about? And what he's talking about is the mobilization of the federal government to some degree on the basis of escalated threats against educators and the insanity that's happening at the school board meetings. The problem is not taking seriously the behavior of parents at school board meetings. That's what we should be doing. The problem is that the school board meetings are getting completely insane. And what this entire thing is in reference to is that last week, the National School Boards Association pressed Biden for federal assistance to review whether violence and threats against public school officials could be considered a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes. That's all that this is about. And Peter Doocy, of course, has to make it the most melodramatic thing possible. Then Peter Doocy tries to make it a free speech issue. The problem is lunatic parents at the school board meetings. Then Doocy tries to make it a free speech issue. Does Biden support the right to protest? Of course he does.
So does the president support the fundamental right of these parents to protest at school board meetings?
Of course, but he doesn't stand for the fundamental right. I assume you don't either, for people to take violent action against members of public servants. And that's what the threats are about. And so, no, he doesn't stand for that. No.
Right. It's one of these after another, just continuing to make something not out of nothing, but make something out of what you should be making the opposite out of. Why are all of these parents losing their minds, going crazy at school board meetings, attacking teachers, verbally assaulting, quoting Hitler, as we talked about last week, on and on and on? That's really the question. And then just one other, here's a bonus one. This is a different reporter saying, why hasn't Joe Biden called Mitch McConnell to try to get all of this stuff sorted out, referring to the bills? And the double standard here is notable. Let's listen first.
Why wouldn't the president, given that relationship he has with Mitch McConnell, just call Mitch McConnell and have this conversation with him? Why do this through public
What's
events?
the conversation about?
I don't know. They had the relationship. He's the one who said he could bring the two sides together. So wouldn't there be some value in having that conversation?
We know what the risk-free option is here. We know what the clear path forward is here. And I think the president has made no secret about his belief on that.
So I have no problem with Joe. I've said it a million times. When Joe Biden brought Republicans to the White House, and some people on the left were mad, some people on the right were mad. Great. Bring them. Give them an opportunity to weigh in on the COVID stimulus bill. That was back then. They don't want to participate. Let them not participate. And ultimately, that's what they did. But you're not going to hold things up. It's fine to talk to them. When it was Trump, right? The question was, why won't Democrats give Trump what he wants? Why are Democrats getting in the way? Why won't they concede anything at all? Why? Even though that was a completely dishonest framing. Now, much of the corporate media has switched to, why isn't Joe Biden talking to more Republicans? Before, the problem was Democrats weren't giving Trump what he wanted. Now the problem is Joe Biden hasn't called Mitch McConnell, but a couple months ago, when he actually did meet with Republicans, then the problem was, why is he giving Republicans so much power, even though he didn't? It's the need to constantly create the most salacious possible narrative, even if it has very little bearing on reality. So that's the press briefing. Let's now talk about Christmas. One of our sponsors today is Blue Chew, a unique online service delivering the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis in a chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. And they're giving my audience an entire month's supply for free. So if you think you could benefit from an extra boost of confidence when it's time, all you have to do is take a short quiz on their website. A licensed doctor approves your prescription. The medication comes straight to your home within days in a discreet package. No driving around to the doctor's office or the pharmacy. No waiting around. No awkward conversations with your doctor. All of Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA. The entire process is just a few clicks. Go to bluechew.com. The link is underneath this video. They'll give you an entire month's supply for free when you use the promo code PACMAN. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping.